Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and the Calculate Challenge has finally been solved. All right, so it's been about 2 weeks since I posted the Calculate Challenge right here, Calculate Challenge Round 1, and it all basically dealt with time intelligence, date intelligence type measures. And so Alexis Olson solved the last remaining ones, which was the prior week or the prior month, the prior quarter, prior year. So I took this and I tested that in the PBX file, and just so you can see it, so everybody can see it. Fairly simple to solve. The last one, I think my versions use distinct instead of values because I use distinct and don't use values. Um, but congratulations to Alexis Olson. He solved all of this. So I've got all of his answers marked as solutions here. And then I've also attached the solution file, my testing solution file, PBX file to this, so that everybody can download it and they can, don't have to recreate all this stuff. So again, congratulations, Lex Olson, who knows, I think, Calculate as well as anybody that's out there. I don't know, but I have a feeling that, it probably was more challenging than he probably gave it, at the start of this, in terms of the trying to get around the DAX query engine and the crazy query plan that it comes up with, in terms of if you just kind of use Calculate in the normal expected way. um, and so, I mean, and this solution here, so this is using window, and this was the first one he came up with. So summarize, and it looks, again, I think it looks very kind of no calculate-ish. I covered that in my last video. And the other thing is the window function. I don't think that was, to me, that was, I don't know if that was ever intended to be used. Um, Honestly, outside of like visual calculations, it's a crazy function in my opinion. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different parameters, and I think there's even more that it can have. And you kind of have to really, to me, I don't know if anybody else remembers like the 3Com Net Wizards. Does anybody remember those days? Where you had like, it was like the first Microsoft networking that came out as they partnered with 3Com, and there were all these like 20 different settings that you had to manually adjust, as the network grew in size and more nodes and that sort of thing. And you had to, so the people that like got certified on like knowing how to manually adjust those settings, as more nodes were added to the network, there, I think they were called 3Com Net Wizards, is my recollection. But to me, and then they came out with the next version. It's just like, oh, we'll just handle that for you, and you don't have to do any of that. That's sort of how Window to me strikes me, is like, so you gotta know all these like crazy settings and all the intricacies and the internal wiring of this thing, which I don't think that's easy to use or anything. But you don't have to, right? You can use a filter. So again, to me, very no calculate-ish, but it's using Calculate and it does its job, and uses the filter function instead of window. And then you have this one here. So now but again, the purpose of this was never to beat Calculate, right? Because in my opinion, I think almost every DAX problem that's out there, there's probably a no calculate version and a calculate version. There's always multiple ways to solve things, right? Always. And so it's never about, to me, it's never been about, beating calculate and, and because here's a secret. I use calculate. I don't use it very often, but when it comes in handy and it serves a purpose, I'll use calculate in my DAX. I don't have a problem with that at all. It's just I don't. It's not my go-to. It's not my default. It's not what I use right off the bat. It's not. It's here's a situation. It's like, oh, I'll try something this way. Okay, this is a situation where calculate is actually useful. Because maybe I have a ton of different slicers and I want to keep all that filter context, from all those slicers, and it's easier to use a calculate versus to do the no calculate all accept version. So I'll use it. So that was never the purpose of no calculate. The purpose of no calculate, and again, this goes back to taking the narrative back from the calculate crowd, which seemed to get all wrapped up in it's got to be like all these use cases where no calculate can't do what calculate does. Well, and most of those have been disproven, if not all, but for the most part. That was never the narrative of no calculate. No calculate is all about the pattern, in that what is easier for people to learn? Is it easier for people that are new to DAX to learn calculate and all the intricacies of calculate, or is it easier for them to learn just a single pattern that pretty much works in almost all circumstances and is the same pattern over and over again, to the point that DAX becomes monotonously boring to a certain degree? And so I want you to take a close look at this, right? This is what I really want you to focus on. So when you're trying to figure out a problem, is it you're going to use calculate in this pattern with window and a summarize? Are you going to use it in this pattern with summarize and some variables and then a filter? Are you going to use it in this pattern as treat as? And let's go even further than this, right? Are you going to use it in this pattern of calculate? The filter is on or after running total, and we're going to come back to this one. Are you going to use it in this pattern, right? Right. This is for a rolling average, right? We're using a calculate table and a summarize and a calculate. Or are you going to use it in this crazy pattern with keep filters and then calculate with the sum inside the sum x and all that? Versus if you look at the equivalent, here's the equivalent no calculate pattern. Create a couple of table bars, do a sum x across them. Rolling average, right? Create a couple of variables, create a table bar with the summarize, do an average x across them, right? Rolling total or running total. Create a bar, create a table bar, do a sum x across them, right? And the same thing for, I would say, for these patterns up here, for example, right? Create a couple bars, create a table bar, do a sum x across it. The pattern is amazingly consistent for all of those different calculations, right? For the no calculate version. But the same cannot be said for the calculate version. You saw just the crazy different patterns that you have to employ with calculate in order to do the same calculations versus one single pattern that does everything, right? And that's always been my message as far as the no calculate approach, right? One pattern, very easy to teach people and learn, and then you can just use it over and over again to solve every problem in DAX. That's my message around no calculate. What is easier for people to learn, right? The calculate method to me never made any sense as far as trying to jump people into like, oh, go learn and calculate as your first task in DAX. That makes no sense to me. You're trying to learn the hardest function in probably all of DAX to learn. And that makes no sense. Why would you steer new people to DAX down that path? Have them learn the basics first, right? And then, hey, if the problems are complex enough that they're going to require calculate, great, then go learn calculate and how it works and stuff. And you'll have a very good basis of knowledge for using calculate if you've learned the no calculate approach. So that's always been my take. Now, one last thing, because I don't know, I just want to ask. So the running total problem, right? So this is the classic, like if you, and the complaint around this one has always been that the quick measure that Microsoft generates, does not work for single table data models, right? When it's generated, okay? And so you have, and this is just, I think, points out another, and it doesn't, and it looks like it should, right? If calculate's doing what it's supposed to do, right? You're replacing the filter context. In this case, the filter context deals with, that you have a table and you have this month here. And so the month contains dates, right? And you're trying to replace the filter context around the dates, right? So you can get all the dates leading up to a specific date. And it just, a layman's person understanding and calculate, this would seem to do the trick, right? So I'm replacing my date filter context with, my new date filter context, but it doesn't work, right? And there's a very easy fix to this, which does work. And it may drive people crazy that this is the case. I think it's this. Yeah. So here it is. So actually, it's this one. Yeah, this is the one I want to use. So if you just take that formula, right? So now here's an actual running total. Now, the difference between these two, and I'm going to zoom for this. So the difference is this one uses all selected table date versus this one just uses all selected table, right? You get rid of the date and then it works, right? And it doesn't even work. I think if it's this one where I'm using all table date, right? Maybe somebody out there is saying, "Oh, it's because all selected is weird." No, it's not all selected because if you use all table date, still doesn't work, right? So there's a ton of nuance to calculate and what you put inside the box as far as calculate is concerned. And then back to another major tenet of no calculate. How do you debug it? How do you debug what in the heck is going on with this right here versus just one simple change, this? How do you debug what's going on inside a calculate? You really can't. Not without opening up DAX Studio and going checking out the query plan and all this other crazy stuff, but like business users, you don't have time for that. So anyway, again, I want to congratulate Lexus Olson. He's one of the good guys, and I've had a lot of fun with his no calculate challenges. And I think, regardless of which side of the camp you fall on, these kind of challenges I think are valuable in that you learn something from them. So anyway, that is all I had. Oh, and there will be a calculate challenge round 2. Don't worry about that. I'll be coming up with something here in the near future. So that's all I had for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.